If you're struggling to get in touch with this elusive thing people call flow, then congratulations, you're like just about everybody else. This is a coaching session with somebody who is extremely high achieving, but the harder they work, the more rigid they get. If you'd like to become more competent and relaxed at the same time, then watch this video, because this is how you create ease. First of all, I love it when somebody comes on a call and says, so I'm trying to do a thing and it seems that I value it, but I'm not doing it. Because that's so realistic. Thank you for the evidence-based approach. That's a good place to start. Okay, so being in flow or being in a more relaxed state of being while working is a skill. It's not a woo-woo concept of I'm going to have a different mindset and all of a sudden I'm going to be chill about everything. It's literally just a skill that you can develop. And so if we understand that, then we need to start with what happens anytime you decide to introduce a skill into what you're doing. Because there's a set of things that happen when you try to learn a skill. And the first thing that happens anytime you try to learn a skill is your performance drops. And this is one of the hardest things for high performers when they try to work on getting in flow or being more relaxed while they're working, is they try it and then they get worse results. Oh, well, they say I should be relaxed and, somebody who's masterful at something, they're always in flow. But here I try to relax and then my performance drops. And so you're relaxing and then your performance is going down and you're going, well, not that. And then you're putting yourself in fight or flight or getting yourself stressed again and then pushing the big red button to make yourself work harder. And then you're getting a result and then you're like, well, that worked. The first thing in skill development usually is you have to learn a thing, right? And so if you, for example, don't know what relaxed feels like, then you first have to just know what it feels like. So let's talk about how to develop this skill. So if I want to learn how to flip a pen with my fingers, and I'm not that good at it, but the Jack Sparrow, Pirates of the Caribbean, like that thing, if I want to get really good at it, so first I have to learn how to manipulate the pen across each finger. And in the process of doing this, I'm going to tense my muscles because I don't know where things are going, right? And so I don't want it to fall out of my hand, so I'm pinching it, right? I'm pinching it. And then I'm flexing this next finger. And then I'm, very careful. I'm pretty tight right here as I'm turning it around because I don't know how much pressure is needed. And so every movement is tension. But if I want to flip it nicely, which I can only do it so nice because I haven't, spent a lot of time practicing it, but I can get it some of the way, I actually have to let go of my muscles and practice moving it as far as I can and letting it kind of mess up. So I'm first carefully manipulating it to see if it works. But then I'm going, okay, what happens if I just flick it on those first couple of fingers? Where do I get to? Oh, okay, I can kind of get it through the first two fingers pretty loosely. But then I kind of fall apart. And so I need to figure out what to do there. Okay, so maybe if I just, I realized I needed a downward motion with my pinky at the last moment, but I timed it too slow. Okay, that was about right. I'm already starting to train in a little bit more naturalness with it. And you see there's this little awkward bit right here. But, if I were to then practice, then what I would have to do is I'd have to practice going across these two fingers with as loose a grip as possible. And I wouldn't be able to win by tightening my fingers. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. I would have to okay, let me learn how to flick this really, really loosely. Let me learn how to flick this really, really loosely. And then if I did this, for another hour, I'd start to learn how to flip a pen fluidly. Another analogy for this is I was a violin teacher, and when I taught my violin students, they would always learn the violin wrong because there's too many variables. And so one of the first steps to learning the violin is probably doing something wrong, right? Because the goal at the beginning is to keep child in violin lessons, which means they need to not have the worst time ever, which means they need to make a sound the first day. And for them to make a sound the first day, they need to do 20 things imperfectly, right? And so one of the first things a child does when they learn the violin is they learn it wrong. And so they start to develop some skills. They learn to play some notes without scratching. They learn to play some notes in the correct pitch. But if they're going to become really good at the violin, they then need to unlearn those bad habits and learn new habits that are better. And in order for them to do that, they have to sound worse, because they gain a degree of competence doing the thing that they started with, right? And so a typical one is a child will learn to play the violin with a wrist that looks like this. They'll hold the violin kind of like that with a bent wrist. Well, this feels better because it feels more secure because, your parents gave you an expensive violin and said you're grounded for 21 weeks if you chip it. And so you want to be careful with the thing, and it just feels more secure in general. But the thing is now all of your tendons are super tight. And so if you were to imagine that your fingers are puppet strings, all of the puppet strings are kinked. And so you can't move as fast like this as you can like this. And so a violinist has to learn to go from here to here, right? But the thing is if you've learned anything like this, the moment you go like this, all of it's wrong. And you're going to sound terrible. And so I would tell my students to sound terrible. I would say, I want you to follow this specific technique, and it's going to sound bad, and I want you to do it, because learning this technique is more important than sounding good in the moment. So if you want to learn to be in flow while you're at work, if you want to learn a more relaxed state of being while being productive, you're actually going to have to be willing to allow your productivity to decrease temporarily. It doesn't mean it has to decrease across the board. You can actually practice this in 10-minute sprints. What you can do is you can practice going, okay, I'm going to do a bunch of breath work. I'm going to relax on a walk for 20 minutes or do whatever the things are that downregulate me and chill me out. And then I'm going to allot 10 to 20 minutes to work where my primary KPI is my state of being as opposed to my output. Which means I then need to practice doing output while monitoring my state. And so I'm going to practice, I'm going to be writing an article, but if I notice my shoulders tighten in response to a creative thought that I'm trying to get out, I have to be willing to let go of the creative thought in order to loosen my shoulders. And I'm doing this sort of on faith because people told me that more relaxed humans often can get more done. And I'm going to temporarily, for this, 20 minutes, I'm going to loosen my shoulders first, let out a sigh, not worry about the fact that I forgot the creative thought that I was thinking. Then I'm going to get back into my body, and then I'm going to think, what did I really want to think about? And then maybe you'll think it again. Maybe you won't. But if you keep doing this and you develop this skill, those creative ideas will actually improve over time because you will start to tap into the mind-body state of creativity rather than the simple mind state of creativity. Most entrepreneurs struggle to implement this at the beginning because they have very clear evidence that every time they relax, they get the exact opposite of the result that they want. But when you see the logic behind it, and you see that it's simply a longer game, and you understand that it is how you get what you want, and the way to get what you want requires temporary reduction in performance, all of a sudden, most people in your shoes are more than willing to do that because now they see the point and now it's simply an exercise. If you'd like to achieve more balance in your life and get more ease and accomplishment at the same time, go to apply.joshterryplays.com or go to the link below.